Thank you for joining us today and keeping your loved one with dementia safe at home. Routine and familiarity are really critical to the care of a person living with dementia. Experts do say that making home modifications early on may help individuals ease into the environment, learn their way around, and grow accustomed to it over time. Enhancing safety and comfort could help them live at home longer. Whether a person with dementia will live at home throughout their illness, relocate to a smaller, more aging-friendly residence, or to a long-term care community, certain strategies, big and small, can offer more support, safety, and independence. So our hope is at the end of this program, you understand that simple changes in your environment will help a person living with dementia settle in with safety without giving up the comfort of their own home completely. Each slide will give you ideas that may help. These are some ideas, but not or may be available in your area. Depending on your situation, you may choose to complete all of these at once or feel your home is already safe. As a post note, I've included the NIH, National Institute of Health, checklist for people living with dementia in your home. It will either come in as an email after the program or in person for live presentations. So what is the definition of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias? In order to understand why we are suggesting some modifications, it does help to have a basic understanding of dementia. So first of all, know that dementia is not a specific disease, but it's a term for a group of symptoms that can be caused by several disorders that affect the brain. And people with dementia have notably impaired cognitive functioning that interferes with normal activities and relationships. They will lose their ability to problem solve, maintain emotional control, personality, and behavioral changes may be evident. While memory loss is a common symptom, it alone does not mean a person has dementia. To be diagnosed, a person must have deficits in 2 or more brain functions, such as memory, language skills, or sensory, without a loss of consciousness. Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia caused by changes in the brain. Alzheimer's disease-related dementia are irreversible. So this is a life-ending disease. So let's look a little bit more at dementia. As you can see the umbrella here. Think of dementia as that broad umbrella term that covers a group of symptoms related to the loss of memory, judgment, language, complex motor skills, and other intellectual functions caused by that permanent damage or death of the brain nerve cells or neurons. Dementia is chronic and progressive with no known cure. The specific type of dementia and its symptoms really depend on which areas of the brain are affected. For example, Alzheimer's disease primarily impacts memory, while vascular dementia may result from damage to blood vessels in the brain, so you may see different symptoms. Dementia is not a normal part of aging, and that's an important thing to remember. Some dementia symptoms can be attributed to treatable conditions, so it's important to get evaluated as soon as you notice symptoms. So you might hear that term pseudo-dementia. People may have a change in cognition because they're having more of a physical issue like a urinary tract infection, upper respiratory tract infection, a metabolic disorder, dehydration. Those are all things that can change how a person's cognitive behavior is. So once we fix those things, that person usually goes back to baseline. That's why it's important to really think about getting evaluated as soon as you see a change in cognition. Understanding the Reisberg theory of retrogenesis is important. and it helped me tremendously when caring for seniors with dementia. Retrogenesis is a concept developed by neurologist and researcher Dr. Barry Reesberg. Literally, it means back to birth. He concluded that Alzheimer's unravels the brain almost exactly in the reverse order as the brain developed from birth. A correlation between the stages of dementia and the stages of human development. Within dementia, you might say once an adult, twice a child for individuals living with dementia. They age backwards in their as their cognitive abilities decline. This Reesberg theory of retrogenesis introduces us to the idea that in dementia, individuals regress in their cognitive abilities, with the last skills that they acquired being the first to deteriorate. If we look at this age comparison between dementia and developmental stages, we can see the comparison with a person living with middle stage dementia having the behaviors and cognition of the developmental age of a toddler. Now think of all the safety concerns you may have if you were raising children and they were toddlers. That's why safety is a primary concern when we are keeping them at home throughout the dementia process. It can be done, and people do it successfully every day. The one thing I do want to tell you about Reesberg is, although we see a change in their cognition and their developmentally aging backwards, we never treat an adult with Alzheimer's disease as a child. We're only using it as a comparison. So like I said, someone in middle stage may correlate with the age of a toddler. And so you think of, how would a toddler behave when they're angry? How would does a toddler try to explore? And do they know about safety? So that's really how you're using this theory. You're no way using this to treat and disrespect someone with dementia without pride and dignity. So I think because we know this, we need to evaluate the environment that person living with dementia may be, more prone to safety hazards in certain areas of the home or the outdoors. Things like monitoring garages, workrooms, basements, and outside areas where there are more likely to be tools, chemicals, cleaning supplies, and other potentially hazardous items, because we're going to look at judgment. They may forget how to use household appliances. Executive function, that causes poor safety awareness and poor decision making. Sense of time and place, they might get lost on their own street that they've lived on for many years and won't find their way back home. Behavior, becoming easily confused, or they become suspicious and fearful. And then they're starting to have some physical difficulties like trouble with balance. So we look at fall risks. And there are senses in their changes in vision and hearing and sensitivity to temperatures or depth perception. And then we look at orientation to time and place. You're going to see changes in sleep patterns and something called sundowning, which can occur. So again, if we look at all the different changes in this judgment, executive function, behavior, physical ability, sense of time and place, our senses, and orientation to time and place, we need to kind of look at that and think, how can we make changes to make them safe in their own home? I think we just have to think about how we can simplify and organize when it comes to making a living space safer and easier to navigate for a person with Alzheimer's disease or related forms of dementia. Simplifying and organizing is a good place to start. Over the years, things like mail, gifts never used, clothes and magazines tend to accumulate and fill up the house. Concentrating, processing information, and finding things at home becomes increasingly difficult for anyone living in a messy environment. And for people living with dementia, clutter can be easily disorienting, not to mention being unsafe. So let's start with the bathroom. While slips and hot water burns can happen in the bathroom, there are various adjustments that can reduce those risks. Experts recommend adhesive strips in showers and bathtubs to prevent slips, replacing a step-over bathtub with a walk-in shower, or installing a bath bench. Instead of using a towel rack as a handle in the bathroom, grab bars give people living with dementia a sturdier and more visible option for something to hang on to in order to prevent a fall. Install grab bars in the tub and shower. A grab bar in a contrasting color to the wall is easier for them to see. If your walls are white and the grab bar is white, they're not going to see that grab bar. As Alzheimer's disease and related forms of dementia may alter people's sense of touch, experts also recommend installing scald protection features on faucets, which detects if water reaches unsafe temperatures and stops the flow of water automatically. Do not leave a severely impaired person with Alzheimer's alone in the bathroom. Use a raised toilet seat with handrails or install grab bars beside the toilet to assist with getting them up and down. Use a foam rubber faucet cover, often used for small children, in the tub to prevent serious injury should a person with Alzheimer's fall, so they're not hitting their head on that hard faucet. Use a plastic shower stool and a handheld shower head to make bathing easier. In a shower, tub, and sink, use a single faucet that mixes hot and cold water to avoid burns. Set the temperature at 120 degrees Fahrenheit to avoid scalding tap water. And remove cleaning products from under the sink or lock them away. Use a nightlight in the bathroom so they can easily get in there without slipping and falling. And remove small electrical appliances from the bathroom and cover those electrical outlets. So again, we're looking at things that we did to safety our house for children. But again, because we look at that change in cognition and that Reisberg theory, we know that these are going to be concerns. If a man or a woman with an Alzheimer's disease uses an electric razor, have them use a mirror outside of the bathroom to avoid water contact, because you certainly don't want them electrocuting themselves by using that close to a water source. So now we're talking about the kitchen. Accidents are prone to happen in the kitchen. People could sometimes leave the stove on for hours at a time, filling the house with smoke and igniting fires. So using appliances that have automatic shut-off features are great. Prevent unsafe stove usage by applying stove knob covers, removing knobs, or turning off the gas when the stove is not in use. You want to install child-proof door latches in the storage cabinets and drawers designated for breakables or dangerous items, or junk drawers that we call them. Lock away all household cleaning products, matches, knives, scissors, blades, small appliances, and anything valuable. You want to disconnect the garbage disposal, discard toxic plants and decorative fruits that may be mistaken for real food. If prescription or non-prescription drugs are kept in the kitchen, store them in a locked cabinet. You want to remove vitamins, prescription drugs, sugar substitutes, and seasonings from the kitchen tables and counters. Remove your throw rugs and foam pads from the floor to prevent slips and falls. And install those safety knobs and automatic shut-off switches on the stove, like I mentioned. Do not use or store flammable liquids in the kitchen. Lock them in a garage or in an outside storage. Use child-proof latches, remove all chemicals, and keep a night light in the kitchen. It's really important to also put a drain trap in the kitchen sink to catch anything that may otherwise become lost or clogged in the plumbing. Now we're moving on to the bedrooms. You may want to anticipate the reasons a person with Alzheimer's disease might get out of bed, such as maybe they're hungry or thirsty, or they have to go to the bathroom, or they're restless and in pain. Sometimes people with dementia, their sleep cycles are off because of their biorhythms, so they may be up at night. So you want to treat these needs by offering things that will help them, such offering food or fluids and scheduling ample toileting. Again, make sure that you're using a night light in that room. You want to make sure that there's adequate path to the bathroom. Don't rearrange the furniture, because that definitely will confuse them. If you can have a chair at the side of the bed which has two armchairs, armrests, that would be helpful because they can push up on both of those armrests. Make sure that electrical cords are moved to the side near the baseboard because that helps. And adequate and even lighting and using a nightlight is helpful. And do not use hot water bottles, heating pads, or electric blankets. Those can be very dangerous for someone living with dementia. And on to our living room. You, again, want to look for those electrical cords from all the other areas where people walk and make sure those cords are out of the way. Again, remove any throw rugs and repair or replace any torn carpet. If you see lumps in the carpet because it's older, you may want to have that carpet restretched and refitted so they don't trip over that. You want to place decals at eye level on any sliding glass doors, on picture windows, or furniture with large glass panels to identify them as a glass pane. You have to have at least one chair or recliner in that room with armrests. That will be helpful. And make sure that you're not using wax on wooden floors. If that person is on oxygen or someone else in your family is on oxygen, make sure that oxygen tubing is out of their way. And you can also, and I do recommend talking to your oxygen supplier about getting a colored tubing. Having clear tubing on a beige rug, they're going to trip over that tubing. So you can get that tubing in fluorescent colors, in blues and greens. So ask them about getting getting the color tubing. If for some reason your provider doesn't have the different color tubing, you can go out and get some painter's tape, or you can get some duct tape that has different colors, and you can segmentally put a period of coloring on that tubing so they can see that that is what they're approaching. And again, you don't want to change the layout of that furniture. Make sure that it stays the same so they stay familiar with it. And, anytime you move furniture on a person living with dementia, you're increasing that tripping hazard. Again, keep matches and cigarette lighters and things like that out of their reach. And keep the remote controls for televisions, your DVD player, and stereo system out of sight. If you're having a hard time keeping that TV remote in a place where everybody can spot it. I've talked to people who've taken a small stuffed animal that's brightly colored and tie their remote control onto that so it doesn't get tucked away in a cushion on a sofa. Good lighting, day and night, is key for a person living with dementia. Vision problems grow more common with aging, and because dementia can affect parts of the brain that interpret visual information, which often intensifies age-related vision impairment. This can mean depth perception issues, a smaller field of vision, and diminished tolerance of glare and difficulty distinguishing one object from another. So lighting should be even and consistent. Lighting above stairwells should be in working order. Light switches should be present or installed at the top and the bottom of staircases. And extra lighting in hallway entrances and outside landings is important. And use night lights again in bedrooms and bathrooms. Lighting, like I said, should be even and consistent. Try to keep light at a similar level throughout each room of the house and from room to room. That means no dark corners or dark hallways. Uneven lighting patterns caused by bright light and shadows can cause agitation and confusion. Even on a bright day, some spots in the house, like the closet, may require extra lighting, and so it is recommended products like pressure-sensitive switches on the door frames of closets that offer automatic lighting. Cheaper alternatives to include battery-operated battery-powered closet lights with built-in motion detectors or manual switches. You can get those at Ace Hardware. I have those in my walk-in closet. because the ceiling closet just doesn't light it enough. So I put those, they just stick on the wall. They're battery operated. And when you walk into that room, they light up. And they're cheap. They're not very expensive. So, these are just some of the ways that you can improve the lighting in some of those rooms. So I know we've talked about keeping all the clutter off the floor, removing those throw rugs. A lot of people don't want to do that because they're nice looking. They collect dust. But you really want to remove those because they really can end in a fall. Keep walkers readily available to assist them when ambulating. It's not helpful when the walker is across the room, and it doesn't encourage them to use their walker consistently. So their walker should be right next to the chair or right in front of the chair that they're sitting at. And again, there's a thing on oxygen tubings, as you can see. Again, make sure they're colored and they're not clear. And again, don't use wax or wood polish on wood floors. And keep the person away from floors when you're washing them. Let them know. Keep them occupied with something else if you need to wash your floors. Basement and lower level floors should be safely locked. So make sure that if you have an entrance to your basement in the house, that it's got a safety lock on it. That should be high enough that they can't reach. And any stairways in your house should be equipped with railings on both sides. Moving on to our laundry room. We want to keep the doors to our laundry room locked. You may put a stop sign on it. Do not enter on the door to prevent a person from walking in. If you just put a stop, do not enter sign, they might see that as something they're not supposed to go into, and they won't bother it. Keep all products in closed and locked cabinets in that laundry room or in high levels that a person living with dementia cannot see or reach those products. This setup here is very nice in this picture, but I don't see any safety locks on any of those cabinets and below, and you really can't leave that stuff out top on that shelf because that's something they may be able to reach. Don't use pods, detergent pods, when you have someone living with dementia because they may mistake them for candy or food. You want to remove large knobs from the washer and the dryer if the person with Alzheimer's tampers with machinery. And to medications. Using a system and not dispensing right out of a bottle will help you, as well as the person living with dementia keep track to make sure the pills are taken daily. You really shouldn't be taking them out of bottles anymore when you have someone with dementia, because it really helps you keep track of from the days that you take them. Like I noticed that 2 nights ago, I forgot to take my night medications. So it'll help me remember that I forgot one night. I need to make sure I'm paying attention to that evening. So even when you don't have dementia and you're taking medicines, the average adult is on 4 to 9 medicines a day. And the higher you go in your medication count, the more it increases your risk for falling. Just a side note on that. So use a medication system that you might like. Make sure that you stay with the person as they take their medication, because sometimes they'll pocket their medicines. So you want to make sure that you see and you hear them swallow and you can check their mouth. Sometimes if you put it in their hand, they get it up to their mouth and half of them fall in their lap, and then you'll find them in the sides of the chair. I have just a little colored cup. It's actually the lid to a small container, and it's green. And I put my medicines in there, and then I take them out of there one at a time. So I'm not dumping in my hand, because when you dump them in your hand, you have a greater chance of losing them. And once those pills are dispensed, make sure that medication goes into that secured place that we've found for those medicines. Moving outside. Place a latch or deadbolt either above or below eye level on all doors. Remove locks on interior doors to prevent the person living with dementia from locking themselves in. Keep an extra set of keys hidden near the door for easy access. If you look at this entryway, I probably would keep there's a couple places that you could keep a key, maybe under one of those planters, maybe on in the light up there, but you always want to keep a key to be able to enter. For this entrance, I would consider installing a ramp with handrails and as an alternative to steps. However, if you don't want to do that for something like this, I would put a railing on one side, and then I'd put another railing halfway beneath the other side of the step, so that person could easily move up that ramp. Again, eliminate uneven surfaces or walkways, hoses, and other objects that may cause a person to trip. So if I'm out there gardening and I'm leaving my gardening stuff around and mom's outside with me, I want to make sure I clean all that stuff out and get it out of her way so she doesn't trip and fall on any of my gardening stuff either. You may want to use textured strips or non-skid wax on hard floors and tile floors to prevent slipping. So this floor looks like a outside tile floor, and that can get pretty slippery. So I probably would consider putting those textured strips on this, or making sure that I'm not shining this floor up with wax to make it look nicer. I probably would do. And if you can get a reflective strip, that's even better. Wandering, that's a real issue, and it's common. That and pacing are pretty common with a person living with dementia. We may see this, and we call this a behavior, but it's just a person kind of looking around. Again, think of where they are in their dementia. When we go to Reesburg, what do toddlers and 4-year-olds, and they like to explore and pick things up and walk around. And that's what a person living with dementia, then they're in that stage of dementia. And we have to make that safe for them. Our goal is really to allow the ability to walk, but safely. However, if a person wanders away from their home, this can be a life-threatening event. So electric monitors equipped with motion sensors would be advisable, as alarms can be frightening. Use remote alarms that would alert the caregiver or family member is a better option. Bells or chimes attached to a door could work as well, especially for light sleepers. You want to make sure that if they're getting up and wandering at night, that you know where they're at. Families that plan to set up home security systems should always seek consent from their loved ones, as long as that person still has that capacity to make decisions for themselves. Some may not welcome the plan, but in that case, note that the family should seek common ground and ask that loved one, what are your goals for yourself? What are your hopes in terms of where you live? And this is what we want for you. We want you to be as independent as possible, but we also want you to be safe. And that's really what you're looking at. Use of a home monitoring system or a GPS tracking system is good. You can, there's a watch that both of my grandsons wear, and it looks like a Apple Watch. And I think it's from Apple. And my son, and because this is the first year that they're kind of letting them venture off a little bit in the neighborhood by themselves. Things aren't what they were when we were kids, where we were out playing all day at 4 or 5 years old. But because of these changes, that parents really need to keep a track on their children. And this watch, which looks like a regular watch, can track and know exactly where they're going. Someone else I know put an Amazon AirTag on their shoes, and so they can see where that person is going with the Amazon AirTag. So there's a lot of different ways that you can track someone. You don't want them to be outside wandering where it's unsafe, where it's too hot, where it's too cold, and they can get hypo or hyperthermia or walk into traffic or just get lost and wander off. We see those silver alerts all the time. We hear about it on the news, and unfortunately, many of those people don't make it home safe. If you have someone missing, report a missing senior immediately. You do not have to wait 24 hours to do that. Looking at our garage, basement, and shed, again, you want to make sure that they're all locked and inaccessible. Inside a garage or a shed, you want to keep all potentially dangerous items such as tools, tackle boxes, machines, and sporting equipment either locked away in cabinets or in appropriate boxes or cases. Make sure that you secure and lock all motor vehicles and keep them out of sight if possible. And consider covering vehicles, including bicycles, that are not frequently used. This may reduce the possibility that the person with Alzheimer's disease will think about leaving. Keep all toxic materials such as paint, fertilizers, gasoline, or cleaning supplies out of view. Either put them in high, dry places or lock them in a cabinet. If a person with Alzheimer's is permitted in the garage, shed, or basement, preferably, it should be with supervision. Make sure that the area is well lit and there's not clutter and there's handrails for them to get up and down safely. Make sure that your walkways are clear of debris and clutter, and place overhanging items out of reach. In emergencies, keep a list of emergency phone numbers and addresses for local police and fire departments, hospital, and poison control hotlines so you have them immediately when you need them. Make sure safety devices are always working. Do an annual check. Maybe when you are making sure you're doing your annual carbon monoxide and smoke detector, make sure that your fire extinguishers are available and working. You're replacing batteries and things that need batteries, but that should be checked at least once or twice a year. Learn about a 24-hour nationwide emergency and wandering response service, and keep a short medical history available, including the diagnosis of dementia for those first responders, so they know kind of where they are in their dementia and can respond appropriately. In general, the decision to issue a silver alert is made by law enforcement agency investigating the report of a missing person. Public information in a silver alert usually consists of the name and description of the missing person and a description of the missing person's vehicle and license plate number. So if someone is in the home, is living with dementia or Alzheimer's disease, firearms can pose a significant risk for everyone. For example, if the disease progresses, the person may not recognize someone he or she has known for years and view them as an intruder. With a gun accessible, the results could be disastrous. So do not hide any gun in the house. All guns should be removed or secured in a double-locked gun case with the keys or the passcode hidden away. And tips that can create a happy home for living with a person with dementia. Keep in mind that what a person living with dementia is saying or seeing is usually their reality. And by arguing, you are denying their reality, causing anger or frustration. Think about how angry you'd be if someone was denying your reality. So it's easier and more important to empathize with them. So some example phrases that you could use is, I'm sorry you're feeling that way, or it sounds like this is really bothering you, or, mom is, unhappy today because she thinks that she saw her husband, and you don't want to say, well, your husband's been dead for 20 years. You just say, oh, really? I'm glad that you got to see him. And then redirect them. Tell me a little bit about, tell me something that makes you happy about dad, and kind of talk that way. And then redirect them to something. Let's go have a nice cup of tea, or, the sun's out. Let's go sit outside for a little while. So you're just going to redirect them. In the earlier part of dementia, the desire to drive may still be with that person, but remember where they are in Reesburg and ask yourself, is it safe? So hiding the car keys will keep them out of sight and may not trigger the desire to drive. If you want the person living with dementia to sleep better at night, you want to limit napping during the day to maybe one nap a day, and it should be earlier in the day than later in the day, and you want to limit it to about 20 to 30 minutes. Music is a great connector, and for one of the last things a person living with dementia will lose, but they will enjoy. So playing music will help either relax that person or help them engage in activities, but know what kind of music that they like. When my mom got to that point where she was more nonverbal than verbal, I remembered a song that, she used to sing when she was younger, Sentimental Journey. And I found it on my iPhone just going through YouTube. And so we used to sit there and I would put that music on. And that was the only time that she actually verbalized all day, was during that song. She knew most of the words, amazingly. Routine helps older adults, especially with dementia. It helps them feel safe. So try to keep a normal routine. If things are going to change due to holidays and birthdays, let them know close to the time of the event, but that there's going to be a change in the routine. But at this point, as they get farther into their dementia, they may not be at that same Christmas celebration. They may not feel comfortable at that same Christmas celebration you do anymore. It's too crowded, it's too noisy, it's too hot. So you may have to look at other ways to celebrate holidays. During mealtime, try to reduce distractions, turn off the TV and limit the conversation. Oftentimes, they're only able to concentrate on one thing at a time. And if to keep them healthy, you want to make sure they're concentrating on eating. Avoid dishes that have lots of patterns on them. Placemats and tablecloths, as they can be confusing. Use plates or bowls that have contracting colors with the food. Offer several food choices at a time, but don't overload the plate. Enjoy their company with something you both find mutually enjoying: a movie, simple puzzle, or music. Walk with them in their journey and let them and love them for who they are. Lastly, taking care of yourself as a caregiver. You can't be a caregiver without caring for yourself. So you really need to create a space and time for yourself. 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. Reach out to other people for help. Some people are not very good caregivers but they want to help. So make a to-do list and put it on your refrigerator. And on that to-do list, it may be going to the butcher to get meat, or it might be changing a light bulb in the house and you haven't had time to do it. So put those on a to-do list. And when people call and say, is there anything I can do? You can say, yeah, you know what? I need a couple lights in my house changed. Can you do that for me? Or can you run to the butcher? Stop by, I'll give you the money. And they're very happy to do that. They might not feel comfortable being the caregiver, but they do want to help. When someone with dementia says something to you that's inappropriate or hurtful, don't take it personally. There's no filter left in their brain, and they might say things that are inappropriate. They don't mean it, and you cannot take it personally. It makes caregiving far more difficult. You've got to just let it go. And remember that grieving is okay. As I've mentioned, my mom had Alzheimer's disease. She had it for about 10 years total. And every time she lost the ability to do something, we grieved. And as a matter of fact, when she passed away, grieving was different than when it's a traumatic death or an unexpected death, because you see them, you grieve so much during the process. I think it's really important for many people to get involved in support groups or local community groups that can help them. A lot of people say, I don't want to go to a support group. I'm not a support group type of person. There's support groups on Zoom. We have a support group and it's on Zoom, and you don't even have to leave your house. And you can gain a lot of insight and ideas from other people, other caregivers who have gone through this also. If you can exercise, just do some walking a little bit. If someone says, what can I do, when they're comfortable with staying with mom or whoever you're taking care of for 10 minutes, get out and walk for 10 minutes. But doing something that's going to increase those feel-good hormones in your body is going to help you get through your day. So hopefully some of these hints have helped, will help you along the way. And just know that Elderwerks is a program. It is a non-for-profit 501(c) that can help you with any of the questions with caregiving or placement or how we age in place. So you can always reach out to us, and hopefully we can answer your questions. I want to thank you today for joining us. I appreciate you being here today. And again, have a good day. And I hope you've gotten something out of this program that you can bring to the care of that person living with dementia. Thank you.